because in Switzerland, we only meet every 2 weeks for the Bodhisattva. So by the time we meet again, then they've forgotten. I just put the loudspeaker so I can hear you better. Oh, anybody has done that? Anybody remembers what it was?
Yes, I remember, and I tried to think about it, but it's not a very important issue for me. So I can just the one that you gave, the suffering of change.
Yeah.
You said that how do we feel when we know that a pleasure is about to be done?
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with this. That's why I didn't, I don't know, I cannot add much to the...
Okay, then that's it. Then don't say anything.
I just wanted to remind the others the question.
That was the homework. Yeah, suffering of change. You see, this is the problem. We're not disturbed enough by this. No, I'm not joking. I am really not joking, because we're only disturbed by the suffering of pain. That's the only thing that disturbs us. But that, and then the other suffering that is even more subtle, like the all-pervasive conditioned suffering, it doesn't bother us at all. You know, we say, oh,
no,
God.
That's the suffering that really bothers me. The third one. The third one, the idea that no matter what, you know, we keep adding this karma, and we have this afflictions, and no matter what, the basis of our life is suffering. This I can relate to very, very well.
Okay.
Strongly.
Yeah, but the suffering of change is no matter what we build up, it will always go sour.
I know. So, you know, you ask in a different way. You ask, do you get irritated when a pleasure, you know, that the pleasure is about to
yeah. Yeah. No, you don't get it. So Tommy doesn't get irritated. You don't get a feeling. You never have a feeling of nostalgia when you think about when you were young.
No, I hate nostalgia.
No, but okay, use another word. You never get a feeling of longing, kind of, or sadness when you look at pictures when you were young and fit and.
Not at all. On the contrary, I think that I feel much better today than when I was younger. I never looked at it.
So in a way, so it's interesting what Tom is saying. So does it mean she doesn't understand the change is suffering, as what the Buddha said? Yeah. Does it mean that?
I don't know.
Because, you know, we need to be disturbed by this by this fact that everything that we build up is going to collapse. Because otherwise we're only concentrated, in your case, the suffering of pain that we want to get rid of, and the all-pervasive suffering. But as you want to get rid of the all-pervasive suffering, I guess that would get rid of also the other two sufferings.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think when you look at when we look at karma, is like our physical pain come from negative actions, right? Like when we do negative actions, harming others and this and that. The suffering of change comes from doing actions with when there's unhelpful emotions present, or as we could call them, delusions. And the all-pervasive suffering comes from kind of wrong views of clinging to a real I, inherently existing I.
I can just add that I think that the suffering of change is like, Damdula says, like a bait. Something that, you know, like a bait that you give a fish, because it hooks you to samsara. And to this I can relate.
Yeah, exactly, because we do have pleasure. This is the problem. And then we go, you know, we can console ourselves with finding other pleasures. Okay, one pleasure is finished, then I go to another one and to another one and to another one. And we put a lot of effort into making our life comfortable. And some people put a lot of effort, maybe none of you who are watching here, put a lot of effort into creating pleasant situations. You see, if we would know from the beginning that it's no point, because then we have to go find something else, and then something else, and then something else. And we would see that there's not much point to put so much effort into making the house beautiful and the cars beautiful and the garden beautiful or whatever. Maybe we wouldn't spend so much time on it. I think this would be the message to understand, because as we can see in our society, what is mostly developed is the outside world. You know, where do all the thoughts and the money and the technology and whatever, where does it go to? Is to make our environment more comfortable and more easy to handle and all this. And we, after all these years of doing this, you know, if you think just in maybe the last century, you know, just in 100 years, technology, medicine, and all this, how much we have advanced. But then the question comes, are we really a happier society? And I'm not just talking about Israel. So please, you know, don't always take Israel as an example, because it is not in a very good state at the moment, but even people in Switzerland, you know, are we a society that is happier? Are people more compassionate? Are people more, you know, in general? So then all this knowledge that we have, is it going in the right direction? I mean, is it fulfilling its purpose? Because again, coming down to this very, very simple fact, everybody wants to be happy and nobody wants to suffer. Yeah. So yeah, maybe the suffering of pain, as opposed to, like yesterday, we talked to somebody who works for the DETSA. DETSA is this, you know, the Swiss government's place where you go and you give humanitarian aid. So we talked about Haiti, you know, and she said, you know, when you're there, I mean, it's so hopeless, the whole thing. It's so corrupt and nothing advances and these kinds of things. Still, a lot of it gets invested in that, because I think if your life is filled with suffering of pain, it will be very difficult to work with the mind. Yeah, in order to be able to work with the mind, you need to have a certain situation where you do feel more or less okay. Okay, so for Tammy, she says she's absolutely not bothered by the suffering of change. She's never sad. She's never irritated when something goes.
I would like to say something.
Which is good, you know. I mean, I'm not saying you should be, so it's fine. So Dalit, what do you want to add?
Yeah, I wanted to say that even that I understand that I have to leave everything behind and to see the things like what they are. From time to time, I really have something like a pinch in my heart that it's really make it not for all the day, not for hours, but for
Mm-hmm.
me sometimes sad, sometimes miserable, but not all of me. It's part of my heart.
Mm-hmm.
In the same time, I understand everything. I understand that I had to see the things like they are, that I don't have to make story about everything, but it's still a little bit. No, I'm not clean like Tammy said that she is. So, but there is like another voice in my head. I mean, me, but another voice that said, "Okay, pay attention now. You feel like that, but what it's mean, what it's there." And so, even if in the moment I'm there, then I can go on and smile again and everything.
You know, I think we're not disturbed enough by it, quite honestly, in a way. Me also, because we can just go to another pleasant moment, or we can console ourselves with things that are nice and easygoing, and these kind of things. Yeah. I think, you know, I think why also it's important to understand it, because if we find that something is really good and then it changes, and we start, and somebody takes it away from us, you know, then we get really irritated and we get really upset and we get angry at these people. Yeah, so then it's also good to see I would have lost it at one point anyway, because we have a tendency to cling to the good things. Leora Kenneth wanted to say something. Sorry for cutting you.
Thank you. I except of saying hello to Netta, who's here.
Yes, Netta has just joined us.
I thought about it this week, and when I think...
Wait. Hello. I'm always good and disturbing. I'm sorry.
You're not disturbing. We're very happy to see you.
Thank you.
When I thought that the definition of happiness is everlasting happiness, of course my pleasures was not being happy. But I realized that I saw it connected to what we discussed last week about the ego.
Mm-hmm.
I totally didn't want to get rid of everything that made me pleasure, even though the voice of Dharma told me, this is suffering, and you know it's suffering. What are you doing? Getting more and more of this changing pleasure. And I refused.
Mm-hmm.
I totally want more and more mundane pleasures, even though my understanding is that I'm doing the wrong thing spiritually. So of course I saw it. It's very nice when negative things changes and comes to an end.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I totally refuse. It is so unpleasant to give up. I refuse to deal with it. And thanks to the Dharma, I do. I have to.
Yeah.
And so it's an issue, yes.
Yeah, it's an issue, and it's an issue also all our expectations. I mean, for those people who have been married already for quite a while, I mean, when you fell in love with that person and you decided to get married, if you would have exactly known what this means, would you have still gotten married with such a happy mind? You would still have gotten married, but you know, didn't we have expectations, especially people who got divorced? You know, I mean, we see it's not to hurt your feelings, yeah, don't take it personally, but we see so many beings around us, you know, that are getting divorced. But then when you're young and you're getting married, you're not really thinking, well, you know, at one point maybe we get divorced, so let's enjoy being together now while it's still working, and then when it doesn't work anymore, well, that's it. That would be the understanding the suffering of change, that when the change comes and when it comes drastically, that we really don't suffer. So, you know, when we lose something that we're not attached to, of course we don't suffer, but we only feel our attachment once we lose the things. So let's say, you know, let's say a partner dies young, like my brother. You know, my brother died at 48. It was terrible for his wife, yeah, because we don't take that into consideration that it can happen to us. And many people say, well, I don't really want to think about the suffering of change because then it spoils my pleasure in having the thing. I don't think so. Maybe it will not be so, wow, this is so great, this is so wonderful, this is so beautiful, but it will be much more calm, and the level of appreciation, I think, will be much more respectful and really appreciating the other person for what the other person is, and not so much because that person belongs to me or I have this object or something like that. It's an interesting issue, this suffering of change, to really look, because as I'm saying, if you're not attached to something and you lose it, especially the negative things, as Leora Kenneth says, of course you don't suffer when it's changing. Yeah, but I have, you know, Tommy says, I hate nostalgia. Well, you know, I hate nostalgia, I hate jealousy, I hate attachment, I hate anger. I still have it. Yeah. So it's nice if you can say, I hate it, so therefore I don't have it. But, you know, when I go, sometimes I need to go to that area where I used to, when I was young, spend a lot of time climbing mountains. It's terrible, you know, I mean, it's as Dalit says, no, it is not terrible. But I feel this pull in my heart. I feel the pain in my heart, you know, and I remember how it was and how it was wonderful. So of course there's this appreciation for the people that I spend time with, but there is also this kind of sadness that I cannot repeat it. Yeah, this is what I mean. So I'm not, you know, I'm not getting depressed or anything like that, but it is something that if I could choose, I wouldn't choose it. If I could choose to have a healthy body that does not decline in health and in strength and all this, I would definitely not choose to have a body that kind of changes and goes into decline. If I have pleasant moments, and I would have a choice, you know, whether they're pleasant just sense pleasures or whether they're pleasant because there's harmony between people and we have a really good time, I would not choose that this changes. I would not choose it. So, so it's a little bit about this, you know. If we would have a choice, would we choose it? I saw that Tommy sent a message.
And I want to say something also.
Okay, so Hagar says yes. Now, of course, Hagar, I don't know what you say yes to because I didn't look quick enough. Is death considered the suffering of change? Well, death is considered, you know, impermanence. It comes with it. So some people want to die. Again, it depends on it depends on how you look upon death. Okay. But the death definitely creates a lot of pain. I would even put it in the first kind of suffering is pain. It's painful when somebody goes.
And what about sickness?
Huh?
Sick, about sickness.
Yeah, what about
when
sickness?
someone's sick?
Exactly.
Yes.
That's the suffering of pain. It's the suffering of sickness. It goes into these four, you know, when we look at the sufferings, it goes into the four, in the categories of suffering. You have birth, sickness, old age, and death. Yeah, something that is not wanted. You see, when the Buddha says there is suffering, so he gave us that list, and he gave us that list is like in general, this is not wanted. Now I have to look at the chats a bit quicker. It's death, suffering of change, old age, sickness, and death are suffering, but not the second suffering. Well, you know, I think this kind of goes a little bit like that, isn't it? They're different categories, you see. So you have these different lists. So you have the three sufferings, which is the suffering of pain, suffering of change, and the all-pervasive conditioned suffering. Then he gives us the list of the 6 sufferings, which is uncertainty, unsatisfactoriness, being born again and again and again, having to die again and again and again, going from high to low, and being alone in this whole process. That this is the list of the 6 sufferings. And then you have the 8 sufferings, which is birth, old age, sickness, and death. And then it's having what we don't want, not having what we want, losing things that we are very attached to, and then as a global thing, the 5 contaminated aggregates in general. This is the list of the 8 sufferings. So we can, you know, you can choose yourself, well, which list does it go to? Those 6 are really suffering, but I still wonder about pleasures. Well, pleasures. Tammy is...
Can I give Tammy an example?
Okay, these 6 are really suffering, but I still wonder about pleasures when they end. Well, you know, dissatisfaction is the suffering of change, isn't it? Not understanding from the beginning that is that it's going to end, and looking for more also. Yeah, dissatisfaction, or understanding on a deeper level with the dissatisfaction that this is not what I really want, isn't it? Does that answer your question or your thing, your comment or your question, or I don't know.
It's okay. I'm not saying that the ending of pleasures is not a problem. I just said that for me, death and sickness and illness, the idea that life will end, this is much more heavy stuff than the pleasures that.
Yeah. Well, you see why this.
We finish.
Yeah. Okay. So the pleasures actually are the suffering of change.
I know.
But what we call it pleasure, this is our problem, and we run after it. This is our problem. And when they say, you know, because we're trying to find satisfaction in the pleasures, we're trying to find happiness in the pleasures, and then they say it is like, oh, this is such a great example. It is like licking honey from a razor blade. Because why? Because pleasures are usually attachment. So attachment is a mistaken mind state, which it believes that the happiness is in the pleasure. So it will never be able to give up, to go and look there. It looks in the wrong place. And we get the habit of looking in the wrong place. And when you set the hook, You know, Pema Chodron, when she talks about addiction, we're addicted to pleasures, where believe it or not. And for some of us, we have so much good positive karma that we can string the pleasant moments very, very, very close together. And then it looks like some kind of happiness. But then if we're not looking for inner happiness, you know, if you're just looking for pleasure outside, you get depressed after a while because it doesn't stimulate you anymore. It becomes very boring, and then people get depressed. And this is the state of the demigods or the godrians, you know, very blasé, kind of seen that, I've done that, and you know, not finding interest in these things anymore, because that's not what we're really looking for. But as we are consuming these things, we are burning up our positive karma. This is what we don't, you know, this is what we don't see. Every pleasant moment that we have comes from a positive action from the past. So if we're not having thoughts like, oh, wow, this is so wonderful. Wow, somebody made this. Somebody, you know, or wanting to share it. Yeah. May all beings enjoy this moment of happiness. Then our positive karma gets depleted and depleted and depleted and depleted. And this is the problem basically with this also. Yeah, we're looking in the wrong place. Or they say it's like drinking salt water. No matter how many pleasures we have, it is not making us more satisfied. You know, there's no moment where we would say, unless you're realized, and unless you have really understood the suffering of change, then the moment would come and you would say, I don't need any pleasant smells, sounds, tastes, touches, and sights anymore. I've had enough of this. You know, I consumed enough of these things. I don't need them anymore. And you would never, ever look for them. If they would come, of course, you would enjoy them, but you would not produce them. You would not try to produce them, and you would not kind of go searching for it. As it says in the Foundation of All Good Qualities, seeking, what's it called? Seeking pleasures is the door to all suffering. It doesn't say pleasure is suffering. It says, but if we seek them, because the happiness that we all want, and this is the kind of, you know, the reflection I wanted to do a bit at the beginning, and we'll do it, to really go inside and to really see, what do I really want? Because when we are not so well, we are looking for pleasures, but then they don't work. They don't make us happy because the mind is not interested in these things, unless the depression or the suffering is very slight and very small, then something might help. But it's not really the sense pleasure that helps. Maybe if somebody that you appreciate very much brings you something that you like, then the appreciation for the attention of that person might make you feel better. But I think if you go and buy something very delicious that you really like when you are well, and that gives you a lot of pleasure, if you go and buy it yourself and you don't meet anybody on the way, or you order it on the internet and there's no human interaction, and then just a sense pleasure, this is something that you could try out. Is it giving you the same feeling? Is it really helping you to get out of being depressed or frightened or, you know, insecure or all these kind of things? The Dalai Lama always says, you know, if you're not feeling well, you can look at your biggest diamond ring. It cannot give you anything. But human beings can give you something when you don't feel well. Yeah. So we kind of invest, maybe not you, and if it's, you know, if you have understood this, because I think I have really understood it, because for the food especially, you know, if I would serve the food that I cook for myself here, I mean, people would think, oh my gosh, you know, this is really horrible or terrible what she's eating. It has to be, it's still, there's attachment to the food being healthy and balanced, but how it looks and how it tastes, I don't really care so much. I eat everything up. I don't throw anything away. And so I think with the food I have understood 30, 40 years ago, definitely not. I spent a lot of money to go to wonderful restaurants and have this wonderful food, you know. Now I'm only going to a restaurant when I know the people and I want to support them by buying their food. This is the only reason I go out, I go to a restaurant, not because I want to eat delicious food. So a little bit like this. So this is how we start to understand, and then we give the pleasures much less space in our life, and to really see how what they do to us, and how it's not the non plus ultra that we think. Because very often when we are not feeling well, our ego mind, subtle mind, as Leora says, we have the Dharma mind, who is very clever and who knows it all. But then the ego mind kind of sneaks in and comes with, they start to debate. And very often, maybe sometimes on an unconscious level, we think we are unhappy because it's too cold, or it's too hot, or it's too humid, or it's like the food is not good enough, or, these kind of things. And if we know that already now, I tell you, in old age, it will be so helpful, because as we get older, our senses lose their power. Yeah. So you don't find the pleasure anymore, for example, in the food, because your taste senses have lost their power. Yeah. So this is a good thing to know, that it's not happiness anyway, it's just pleasure. It's just good to make the same way as it's good to make the distinction between pain and suffering, with the second arrow, as we talked about. Yeah, pain in life is inevitable. We have to go through that. That's samsara. Yeah. And there's different levels of pain. There's the pain of pain, and then, or the suffering of pain, and then there's the suffering of change, and then there's the all pervasive suffering. But suffering is not the suffering we add to it. Yeah, a little bit like this. So maybe I can, because I pulled that out also. We talked about this sutra by the Buddha, which is the Salata Sutra, and I think it's this one. So we can read it together, and to see how it relates to the suffering of pain and the suffering of change, especially. So bhikshus, when the uninstructed worldling, this is us, is being contacted by painful feelings. So here they talk about physical pain. Yeah, he sorrows, he grieves and laments. So if I only took the short version, because the long version is that if you if you are hit by an arrow, okay, so means somebody has to shoot this arrow, okay? So it is the pain of the arrow that hits you. And here we can talk about the pain of getting old, being sick, birth, and dying. He sorrows, griefs, and laments. He weeps, beating his breast, and becomes distraught. He feels two feelings, a bodily one and a mental one. So there's the body feeling, but then there's the rejection of it. Suppose they were to strike a man with a dart, and then they would strike him immediately afterwards with a second dart. So the man who would feel a feeling caused by two darts. So too, when the uninstructed worldling is being contacted by a painful feeling, he feels two feelings, a bodily one and a mental one. So bhikshus, when the instructed noble disciple is contacted by a painful feeling, so this is the people who understand. So we don't know when he says instructed noble disciple, whether he means arhats, or whether he means people who have understood emptiness, who are stream enterers. I think definitely it doesn't mean anything beyond that, when we think about the five paths. So these sutras are from the Pali tradition. So then one also talks about these five paths, but then they're called the stream enterer, then the one returner, the never returner, and then the arhat. So he probably talks about somebody who has realized emptiness directly when he says about the instructed noble disciple is contacted by a painful feeling. He does not sorrow, grieve, or lament. He does not weep, beating his breast, and becomes distraught. He feels one feeling, a bodily one, but not a mental one. Suppose they were to strike a man with a dart, but they would not strike him immediately afterwards with a second dart, so that the man would feel a feeling caused by one dart only. So too, when the instructed noble disciple is contacted by a painful feeling, he feels one feeling, a bodily one, not a mental one. So there was a chat here which says, exactly, okay, I don't see what is more. So do you understand? So this is what the Buddha wanted to say. Pain as in samsara is inevitable. And then he talks about old age, sickness, death, birth, these kind of things. But rejecting the pain and getting angry at somebody that we accuse that they are responsible for our pain, then that is shooting the second arrow. That second arrow is not necessary. So if somebody understands emptiness, if somebody understands the law of cause and effect, then they wouldn't shoot that second dart. And this is then the next verse that we're going to look at. Is that clear, more or less, here with these different sufferings? Or do you still have questions or comments? Yeah, Tommy is clear, so that's good. Anybody else? Did anybody else maybe look at the, look at the suffering of change? Did you see some nostalgia? Like, the sorrow that it's finished. Or, your children leaving the house. Yeah, they say, goodbye, mom, don't need you anymore. Yeah, so that's another one, they're not babies anymore. Or, maybe the first time your son doesn't want to be kissed anymore. He doesn't want to be hugged anymore. You don't feel any pain as mothers?
For me, it was very useful, the lesson that you taught this week, because even the small moments when I felt like suffering and pleasure, it's like the same coin, like two sides, because when I felt suffering even a little bit, like I don't have what I want, then I said, wait a minute, why do you need pleasure? Let's see what can be useful. Yeah. And that make me more spacious,
Yeah.
So every time, because actually I felt like I'm suffering when I want something else. I want some pleasure that is missing. And then I said, but why do you want this pleasure? It's not the right direction. What can you do that is useful, or what can be really useful? And then I went this direction. Yeah.
You see here the question is, and this is now, that's very good, because that's the reflection we're going to do, because nobody can tell you what you really want. You have to find out yourself, very deep down, what is really important for me? What do I really want? And then it has to be in a realistic way. You can now go, as Israelis, I want a better government. But you can wish and want, maybe it will happen, maybe not. You can exert your rights as citizens and go voting and go to demonstrations and do all this. But this is not so realistic. But when we look, what do I really want? And then, as Yael says, very good, helpful, is what I'm doing really helpful for getting what I want? Is it useful for getting what I want? What are my priorities? Yeah, so shall we do that for a short while? To really listen inside, not to reject anything, and to come up with all kinds of things, because as Leora Kenneth was saying, the ego mind, says, you're not happy because your car is not nice enough for some people, maybe not for you. Others say, you're not happy because you have an old computer and it's not working well. This ego mind tells us a lot of things why we are not happy, and then we have to challenge it. Is that really true? Is this why I'm not happy? Or is it I'm unhappy because I have wrong expectations of samsara? We have this expectation that samsara should be smooth, nice, harmonious, everybody happy. But that's not what the Buddha is telling us. The Buddha is telling us, as long as we act with wrong views and unhelpful emotions, or destructive emotions, as the Dalai Lama calls them, we create potential for the future that we will have the suffering of pain. Yeah. Okay, let's try. And then again, just some basic awareness. If you can, you sit with a straight back. Very important. And of course, if you are an experienced meditator, then you know what to do. You choose your object and you stay with the object. But sometimes I think for people who are total beginners in meditation, or people who don't meditate so often, it's just good just to sit and not having to do anything, just to learn that. Not having to solve problems, not even, putting your breath, putting your mind on your attention on your breath, just to be. This is so difficult for us. And it's because we're running and running and doing all the time. We don't feel these subtle sufferings. We're kind of almost condemned, the suffering of change. We are condemned to do something all the time. We have to change things in order to survive. Like, for example, when you breathe in, you have to breathe out. Otherwise, you will feel the suffering of change going into suffering of pain. If you breathe out, you have to breathe in again. So we take this for granted. We take this for normal. But the Buddha has a light body, a rainbow body, doesn't need these physical things to work. So try just to be the suffering of change. That's a good one. Try just to be and let the mind totally free and look where it goes and how it does. Is it happy? Is it confused? I will stop talking now because otherwise, you do something, you listen to me. But try to let the mind just totally free and just see what happens. Don't expect anything. You can feel spacious, you can feel confused, whatever. Allow, this is first step. Allow the things to happen. Be the observer, this you can do, but try not to get involved. Sorting things out, solving problems. And just enjoy also. And then maybe the mind really by itself, if we just leave it, if it's not too confused with a lot of thoughts, and you have this ability not to follow, you choose not to follow the thoughts, then the mind kind of becomes a bit more spacious. When it's not figuring out like what to do after this talk, what to eat, or what to do. We're always planning for pleasure. If you look, when you see what is distracting you in your meditation, it's either something that is hurting a lot, so the mind goes there. But in general, if your life is more or less okay, it is planning future pleasures. Because it's not happy just being here and not doing anything. So it's planning. So let go of the planning if you can, and really listen inside. What do I really want? Or kind of You know, what is really important to me? You know, why am I listening to this talk? Am I practicing the Dharma? And try to hear or feel the sadness of not having what we want. Because if we would have what we want, we wouldn't have to practice. He wouldn't be here. And try not to, you know, go into the feeling of sadness. Try not to run away from it. Like, for example, you know, for spiritual practitioners, the sadness to treat somebody in a disrespectful way or being totally self-absorbed. It's painful because that's not what we want. Now, don't feel guilty, okay? Just a sadness. It's part of our undeveloped mind to be selfish. Or like we have high aspirations, you know, to help as much as we can, always to be there, always to be in a good mood, not self-concerned, not to burn out, all these kinds of things. That's our intention, I think, as a spiritual practitioner. But then we can't. That's sad. I'm not talking about, you know, not deep depression, but this kind of pulling. Yeah. To address this longing that we have for goodness, for being pure, healthy, harmonious, not to fight. But that is samsara. It belongs to samsara. So first we have to accept it. And then to really, you know, to feel that longing that we have to be a good person. And to start to believe in our potential that we are a good person. It's just covered by our wrong views. It's so important that we start to trust ourselves. That with the right views and with the right methods, we can live that potential of purity, goodness, connection, like a healthy, respectful connection with all others. Not to be so obsessed by, you know, what we do wrong, but really to have the aspiration to bring out the good, to be able to live the good heart. Don't go into shame or guilt or anything like that. It's no point. It's just the ego kind of rebelling again. And what is very helpful, you know, when you remember moments of when you acted the way you were happy about the way how you acted. And it could be saying no to somebody with a lot of respect and a lot of love. It's not always saying yes, by the way. That you used compassion and wisdom. Maybe remember a moment like this. So we're not enlightened, we're not Buddhas, But sometimes, or maybe very often, we do act in a helpful way, in a useful way, so that we can unlock our potential of being loving, respectful, compassionate, and wise. So remember a moment like this. And just again, check the feeling, the sensation that comes with it. So we end with this question again. What is my deepest wish? And in what realistic way can I fulfill it? As the Dalai Lama said the other day when he was teaching, I can't remember whether it was the third day, I think it was on the third day, when he said, you are master of yourself, kind of, we are responsible for our own happiness. Do you have comments or questions to what we just did? Or, you can also say if you don't agree, yeah, that's always good, because if you don't agree, then we can discuss. Everything good?
What I find again and again, that when I ask myself, what do I want? What is my motivation? Most of the times it's, I want to be really happy, to have this spacious feeling, this connection to the world, this feeling of goodness. And it's only after that that I have to tell myself in a logic way, but don't forget the others. It's always like, almost always like the wish to help others is in this situation of asking myself immediately, what is my motivation? What do I want? Doesn't come naturally yet.
Okay.
To tell myself, remember that you will not be happy if the others are suffering, but naturally, not yet.
Okay. Well, but I think just a wish to be happy, it's like, and to be truly like happy from not harming others in a way, or just being happy. We can see how we behave when we are happy. Then we have no wish to harm others. We're very tolerant, we're very patient. We can bear a lot of hardships and all this. Whereas when we are not happy, that's when we hurt others. So I think at the beginning, this is already a good thing. I want to be happy, and you could maybe add so that I'm not harming others. Because by being unhappy or depressed, whether you want or not, you're harming others because people who like you, for example, or people who are, people who love you, and then they want to have a good time with you, and then you're depressed and you don't want to know anything.
But this is already a thought, a second thought that is.
Yeah.
But the first one is, I just want to be liberated. I am this on that degree. I want liberation for myself.
Yeah. So this is why we're thinking, this is why we always, this comes naturally. Wanting to be happy comes naturally. But then I think to make it a bit more wide, to give it a purpose, because human mind likes to have a purpose. Human mind likes to have a reason. And this is why we train in bodhicitta, because bodhicitta is difficult. And this is why we have to tell ourselves again and again and again and again, hey, but I want to be of benefit to others. So we're not ending up in nirvana.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is why we always add when we take refuge. I take refuge, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, in order I want to become enlightened in order to benefit all sentient beings, so that the mind knows, hey, but this is not enough. I want to go there.
It's interesting because I know that when I help others and when I do things for others, I feel happy. I know from my own experience. Still, when the question is, what is my motivation, is my real happiness, my ultimate happiness. Yeah, like that.
But that's already a good thing, Leoha. So, and then the question is, am I going in the right direction to achieve it, to fulfill it? This is the question then. And then we start to see that, you know, unhelpful motivations are really no good. Can you see the text?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So we, I think we ended with this one, yeah, verse 44 last time. If in blind attachment I cling to the suffering abscess of a human form, which cannot bear to be touched, with whom should I be angry when it is hurt? Okay. So this is also a very good thing, like not to get that, by seeing how sensitive we are, you know, by seeing, if you're not sensitive and anybody can kind of spit at you and say, oh, you're, you know, insult you with words and you're not moved by it, then that's fine. But in general, you know, we expect people to be polite. Well, maybe not so much in Israel, to be polite. I want to tell you an Israeli story again, maybe, which is really nice, because somebody from Israel, she sent me, she asked if she could talk to me. So she said, I don't have your phone number. So she gave me hers and I put it in my telephone and I sent a WhatsApp. And here it was almost midnight, means it's almost 1 o'clock already in Israel in the morning. Yeah. So I had the wrong number. So I sent a WhatsApp and saying, hello, blah, blah, you know, the person, this is my phone number. Then a message comes back, a voice message, an elderly man who says, I want to tell you, this is wrong number. Please understand, this is wrong number, okay? Then I sent a voice message saying, oh, I'm really sorry if I disturbed you because I know it's really late. And thank you very much for telling me. Another voice message comes back and he says, oh, okay, but it doesn't matter. I was still awake. And now you have my phone number. And when you come to Israel, please call me and then I will show you around. You know, having disturbed somebody at 1 o'clock in the morning, and then he invites you to be your tourist guide. I mean, come on, where do you find this? But in Israel, I have no clue who the person was, because then, you know, I sent back a message and saying, well, I know Israel, but thank you very much, and you're very kind. But then he didn't come back to me. But I think next time I come to Israel, I call him up and then I go have a cup of coffee. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah. You know, he could have gotten angry and upset, stupid idiot, why is she sending me a message at this time of the day? If she, you know, if people, yeah, exactly. If people don't kind of turn off their phones and then makes beep, and then he looks and he sees both somebody I don't even know from a country, I don't even know where it's from. What is this, you know, 0041? But no, his reaction, and then he didn't suffer. And it created in me a very good feeling. I could have felt really guilty also. But then when he reacted in such a nice way. So this is helpful way of dealing with arrows, you know. My wrong number, sending him a message, that's one arrow, but he didn't add another one. He actually immediately pulled it out. So this is what we can also do. Instead of it going into suffering, we can pull it out by not getting angry. So when we understand how sensitive we are and how many expectations we have on others, so then we're not getting so much angry at others when they don't behave the way we would like them to behave. Now, this one is a big one here, 45. It is the fault of the childish that they are hurt. For although they do not wish to suffer, they are greatly attached to its causes. So why should they be angry with others? So we talked about the law of cause and effect. We talked about karma. Yeah, didn't we? And so is it true when Shantideva says that we are attached to the things that are the causes of suffering? So maybe the negative actions for the people who are listening to me now here, maybe not so much, because I know you are all 100% ethical. You never kill, you never steal, you never do sexual misconduct, you never lie, you never gossip about others, you never, what was the other one? You never lie, you never use harsh words, you never have angry thoughts about other people, and you're never jealous, and you definitely never have wrong views. That would be the 10 non-virtuous actions. So for those, I think we are okay, and we totally abstain from them. I'm playing the Israeli game and I'm being cynical. Okay? So even that we are attached to them, you know, and attached in a way, as it explains in karma, we are conditioned, or we have a habit, tendencies to act like this when things get tight. You know, when life is going smoothly and everything is okay, then also we are, with the door to these 10 negative actions is quite closed. But what about attachment and aversion or anger? Are we not attached to these things? You know, Shantideva says we are attached to these things. I have a translation from Tenzin Zopo, which is a little bit different. We who are like senseless children shrink from suffering, but love its causes. Do we love our attachments? You know, attachment would be, we plan a trip somewhere or a meal or something, and we're really looking forward to it, implying or projecting that the happiness that I will get comes from doing that or from having this object. Do we not love to plan like this? And it's attachment, because it's telling us the wrong thing. As the Dalai Lama keeps saying, you know, these destructive emotions are based on projections. And we totally fall into the trap. When we have a happy feeling that comes up, we think it comes from the object or from the situation, isn't it? Is it not so? What do you think? You can open your mics and tell me what you think. Kind of, it's really good to check what is our relationship to our unhelpful states of mind that we know from the teachings, they create more suffering. Do we believe it? You know, sometimes we could even think we don't really believe what we think that we believe. You see, if I know that if karma would ripen immediately, and I say something negative or something, or I steal something or I lie, and it comes back immediately, if the suffering, you know, the suffering result from our negative actions done with unhelpful emotions would come immediately, we would have stopped long ago. But as we said with Tom, you know, karma for many of us is a little bit like a black box. We don't know what's inside. We don't really understand the whole thing, and we don't trust fully. Yeah. So then the results, very often they come when we don't know what we threw the boomerang. So we don't know. Then we start blaming others. Yeah. And so we think we believe in the law of cause and effect. But do we behave as if we believe in it? Or do we behave as we believe in it, but we don't really believe in it? Do you see the many beliefs that go together? Do you understand what I'm trying to get at?
Yes.
If we would, yes, thank you. Like if we would really, really adapt the law of cause and effect, 100%, I think we would, okay, of course, there's the tendencies still, but I would have much less negative thoughts, or I see them coming. You know, this is Nachum. I see Nachum is here. So Nachum is the awareness expert. So, you know, because sometimes even Nachum, I tell you, I see what I'm doing. I see it's not helpful. I keep doing it. Yeah. So if I would 100% like certainty that something at one point will come back, I think I would be able to cut. I would apply antidotes to these negative states of mind. Because at the beginning, you know, when I stopped drinking, and of course there's the danger that you fall into it again. So whenever I would have a craving for alcohol, I would immediately kind of distract myself with something else. Because I knew if I would follow that feeling, and this is what attachment is doing, or desire, not attachment, but desire. You see, when we think about something that we long for, and it's an object or a pleasure, it is as you can, even though you know, our mind is so, how to say, imaginative and constructive, you could almost, if it's food, you could almost feel the taste. Our imagination is so strong that we can always feel the taste, and then we imply or we project, oh, then I will be happy. So this is especially for people who are addicted to certain kinds of foods. They can relate to that. If you're not addicted, then you cannot relate to it. Yeah, because then any food is good enough. But if it has to be that kind of food, then it's like this, you know, this pull, the Shempa it's called, yeah? The pull that we have towards that thing. Are we applying antidotes? Or are we going into the fantasy of, oh, it will be so wonderful when I have that? What do you think? Where are we going?
We're going to the pleasure, of course.
Yeah, exactly. We go to the pleasure and thinking that we will have satisfaction. Hagar,
Yes, but it's really hard. Because
who is talking? I can't see who is talking here.
Iris.
Huh?
Iris.
Okay, now I see you, because Hagar also wanted to say something. So Iris, you say what you want to say, and then Hagar will say. Yes.
Okay, I think it's really hard for me to stop it, because even if I know that when I'm angry, I become sick, I still become angry.
Yeah. Okay.
I can't stop it. I don't know how to do it. So I know how to do it, of course, but immediately and in the first time, I become hungry.
Yeah. So this is why Shantideva is giving us, you know, becoming angry. This we will for a long time. I think until we have realized emptiness, we will still have this, you know, feeling of anger. So this we cannot do anything about it at the moment. But what we can do is not to collaborate with the anger and then not do any of the 10 non-virtuous actions, like not to say anything. And this is what this chapter is for. Shantideva gives us a lot of reasonings and a lot of tools that we have to use, the reasoning and the tools we have to use when we're not so angry, so that then they're ready. You know, anger comes and then we can take, oh yeah, karma, oh, how do I look? Or, oh, so you choose one or two that really work for you, and then you train the mind, you repeat them, you know, you apply them and you repeat them again and again and again and again. You train the mind, so then it does it automatically. It comes in with the antidote automatically. The same way as the body, you know, if we do certain movements that are not helpful for the body and creates pain, you go to a physiotherapist and they show you a movement where counteracts that. At the beginning, you have to do it consciously. You know, you feel the pain, you go, oh yeah, why did I? And then slowly, you ease into doing the right thing. So this is what we can do at the moment with awareness, knowing, oops, negative emotion there. It will be there, you know, it will arise. But what we can do, and for that you need awareness, is to say, okay, now I'm going to shut up, not to collaborate with these with the negative emotion. Don't be surprised that you still get angry. It's habit. It's the habitual reaction of the mind to something that the mind has said, this is unpleasant, this is, I don't want. Yeah. Like the higher our expectations, the more we get angry when we don't meet them. Yeah. So then we can put the expectations down. There's many tools and many methods how to, you know, antidotes for anger. One good antidote is to think when we are not angry about the disadvantage of anger. Yeah? Because you see, anger and attachment, the problem is they masquerade, they behave as if they're our best friends. Anger says, get angry, not consciously like this, but it's like, if you take this very strong energy of anger, then the problem will go away. But it's not true, you know, because then you have the internal problem of being angry. Well, it's really easy to see. with this second arrow. When we look at the situation that makes us angry, you know, you get angry. The situation is long finished, but you still get angry. And we're still blaming the situation for being angry because we rehearse it. We take these thoughts again and again and again and again to become angry. Attachment masquerades as your friend and says, you know, go and get what you want because then you will be happy. And it all comes down to what Leora Price was saying. We want to be happy. We have this strong wish to be happy, to be pure, to be good, to be spacious, not to have problems, not to suffer. Or basically, these two things. We want to be happy. We don't want to suffer. This is loving kindness and compassion. We have it for ourselves. Yeah. But we're going in the wrong way. And this is this verse what Shantideva is saying. So Hagar, what did you want to say? Are we addicted to our to causes that cause pain?
I wanted to share that I am a week and a half free from weed. I stopped smoking weed around a week and a half ago.
Okay.
After 12 years of smoking it.
Yeah.
And I had my experience with stopping alcohol. I was clean of alcohol for three years, also, and other substances. So, but what I felt this week with the homework of watching the change is that I just took my addiction to whatever it is to other things, such as TV,
yes,
other things, and although I am aware, although everything that you say right now, you are aware. Okay, I know it's habitual things and nothing more than that. I know that my mind. Okay, so I can get the oral thing of smoke, then I will get the oral things of eating. For example, I feel it in my body, but I got confused. But it's exactly that. It's exactly that because you're so used to following the mind. You're so as much as aware you can be. You're so used to following the mind. When okay, so I'm not gonna smoke. I'm not smoking right now, but the mind is telling me to watch a funny film. No, it's okay. I'm gonna be happy. It's gonna make me laugh. It's gonna make me laugh. So I'm gonna be happy. So it's regardless with everything, and it's I don't know, but it's everywhere. And during the week, I started with your Yom Kippur, and I started from the Yom Kippur till Saturday. I was on self-isolation retreat, fasting and meditating. And after that ended, I did like that.
Yeah.
Right after.
Oh, now you froze.
After it ended, I did like that, and I feel.
Yeah.
You can hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you again. Yeah.
So yeah. So I don't know what my point is, but it's like I did really great by cutting everything and not eating and fasting and doing a lot of meditation from Yom Kippur to Saturday, and then it went like that.
Yeah.
And everything rose up.
Yeah.
I don't know what's my point.
Yeah, it's very nice that you share it. So thank you very much. You need a lot of courage to be able to share that with so many people. So please, anybody who is listening here, you don't misuse it. I usually say it, that whatever this is what the discussion group is all about, that nothing goes out with names, definitely not. Okay? Can we make this promise, please? Yeah. And you see, the thing is, I have been addicted, Hagar has been addicted. So we know when it's suffering of change, we know it. Yeah, when you don't have what you're craving for. And as Hagar says me also, the mind is replacing it with something, you know. So then at least if it's not that harmful, but I can tell you after having, you know, being like, what it's called dry, having been dry for, I don't know, more than 30 years now. Is like this, the shempa, this pull towards the substance, it really, it takes a long time, but it kind of, at one point it is gone. So, being an alcoholic, I'm not a recovering alcoholic. I think I can really say I'm not an alcoholic anymore. Because doing these with the meditation and Buddhism and really seeing people who are addicted to alcohol, I don't even want to be able to drink one glass. Sometimes people say, oh, I wish I could just drink one glass. No, why? What's the point? It didn't bring me what I wanted. I drank because I was always full of fear. So this is why I drank, because it made the fear go away. So you see, all these addictions, it hides something. And then not drinking and then meditating. So I had to face these fears, and I still have them. Every time I put on the computer to talk to you, my heart is going boom, 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 boom. I always think, why am I doing this? Why don't you? But then I start talking and then it's okay. But I'm really nervous every time before I sit on, I start talking to people and all this. Believe it or not, this is how it is. And this is it, but it's okay. Yeah.
Isn't Buddhism a good attachment? A good. I used to be attached. I was addicted to pleasures and things, and
yeah.
And now I prefer to be attached to Buddhism.
Yeah, that's okay.
Because it doesn't do any harm to anybody, and not and I eat more than I used to.
Okay.
But
okay.
At least I don't do anything bad to anybody. I do many more good things, and I've got to do something. The doing thing.
Yeah.
I've got to be doing, not only being. So
yeah.
My doing now is to learn and to become better and to behave in a nicer way with the world. And so, and I've got enough job for many lifetimes.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I think, this whole thing about wanting to become better, it's not, that is also can be a terrible trap. So I think first we have to learn to accept ourselves the way we are, with the mistakes and this and that. So actually being able to talk about the mistakes that we are making, that's very healing, because then we can see it. And this is why also these discussion groups are very valuable, when we can share, because we see we're not the only ones who are having problems. Now, one talks about attachment when the mind is projecting something into an object or a method or a situation, thinking that it's the situation or the method that is actually creating the happiness. Then it is attachment, when it's not true. So with pleasures, we project like having this object, person, situation, we will be happy ever after. This is what it projects, whether we want or not. I think, none of us, well, maybe, with sense pleasures when we eat, when we eat and the mind goes, oh, wow, this is so good. Do we really know that but it's just now and it's just pleasure and that's it? We don't. We think, wow, the way we react, to the food. Afterwards, we know, well, okay, it's finished, but we're not really understanding what these pleasures are doing to us. Whereas if you practice when you say I'm practicing Buddhism, okay, so what does it mean? It means you're practicing ethical conduct, you're practicing concentration, and you're practicing wisdom. And I think that leads to happiness. So it's not attachment, it's aspiration. Now people say, well, how do you know it leads to happiness? Well, logically speaking, if I'm not harming anybody, and I can see if my mind is calm and concentrated, and on top of it, I'm not confused and I know what I want, not even talking about emptiness, but the wisdom of knowing what I want, the kind of worldly wisdom of knowing unhelpful actions bring suffering and I don't want to do them. It gives me already now quite a high level of happiness. Yeah. And honestly speaking, for me, if I want to be happy, I have no other choice but to work with my mind and to train love and compassion. I have to train it. I have to learn it. That's what we did in the 4 immeasurables that weekend, May I be happy? May I be well? May I be free from this and free from that? Yeah. And then expanding it to others and going in steps. First, the people that is easy, you know. So we feel that if you love somebody, and I'm not talking about attached love, but if you really wish, you know, just maybe I'm in gallery view. I don't know in which view you are. Probably poor Tom always has to see me, because otherwise, you know, so that's terrible, I know. But hopefully all the other ones you are in gallery view, so you see everybody, because I think this is the nicest way to teach, actually, because then I see you. So choose one face that you really like that person. You don't want to possess the person hasn't harmed you. You see, not this attached, oh, but she needs, so that he needs to see me. Just choose somebody. So please, everybody, put on your camera, because you might receive some loving kindness over Zoom. So everybody, please just choose one. And then, you know, check that feeling of, how does it feel if I wish somebody from the bottom of my heart, if I wish them well? Would that be considered happiness? If you have a camera, put it on. Because otherwise you miss out. It's difficult to do it. If you know the person, you can do it with a name also, so that's fine. We don't need to mention names, but just to experience the feeling, to be in contact with that person. Would you call that happiness? No. Then of course, you know, but then if we hear that the person is not well, then the happiness goes, because again, this kind of happiness that we have for others, it's nice. Yael is kind of going like this. This is the way to look at people. That's a good posture. That's the loving kindness posture, to look with a lot of, and also Tommy is looking like that, you know, be comfortable, and it's very nice. This is how you sit when you, yeah, right, Hagar also. This is how you sit when you very attentively listen to somebody and look into their eyes, and you're fully there and you forget about yourself. This is the kind of happiness that we want, you know, to be able to forget about ourselves, but not in a sick way, but in a healthy way. Yeah, okay, so you had your dose of loving kindness here. So, so it's a bit of a paradox, isn't it? It's this kind of wanting happiness, not wanting to suffer, even kind of intellectually knowing what brings suffering and what brings happiness, and then not being able to do it. But this is our afflicted mind. It's the paradox of the afflicted mind. We seek to escape from suffering, but constantly create causes that will bring about suffering. I mean, how many times a day do we remember emptiness? Not remembering emptiness is wrong view. Yeah. So you know, doing positive actions with the mind of the real me, doing real action, real self, is creating happiness. Yeah, happy moments, but these moments of happy moments of change, they will end. Yeah. So how many times do we think, okay, looks nice out there, but actually it's just my mind who is labeling it nice or beautiful. Yeah. And then we train the mind to see emptiness, and then things become much lighter. Yeah. And then sometimes even in difficult moments, we might be able to remember, just a projection of my mind. Hey, this is like a movie. Okay, it's like a movie. The movie is kind of real. I feel all these things, but it's not true. Like a movie, you know, if you want to be a good actor, you have to act with body and soul and mind and everything together. But it's not true. And then when the role is finished, then you go and have a beer with the one who just killed you or something like that. So to think sometimes when it's getting really tough, okay, the role I have in this movie, how do I want to play it? This, we have a choice. We do have a choice how I want to play the role. And we don't take that choice. We just follow, you know, when I say we, then if you don't go in that category, then it's really nice. But in general, I definitely, very often, it's easy to follow habits because it's difficult to go against the habit. That's painful. It's painful to go habits. But Pema Chodron to this verse, she says, I'll read it out. So she says, Shantideva here speaks very lovingly in that verse. So he's not scolding us. Yeah. So he says, how sad that like children, we do not know any better. We keep doing the very things that cause us pain. More than that, we are attached to these causes, the addictions, the gossip, the overwork, our addiction to criticizing others and to see the negative side. Do we have an addiction to see the negative side of the glass? You know, the glass can be half empty, it can be half full. Then this is your homework for this week. First look, before you change something, you always need to look with awareness, without judging. Is my habit of rather seeing the negative side, or is my habit of rather seeing the positive side? If it's the negative side, then go forcefully, you know, dig out some positive sides of the situation. And even if it's just, for example, you know, if you are having a very difficult situation with a person, then just think, well, good thing that this negative karma is ripening now while I have tools to transform it. Imagine the negative situation happening another time when I have no tools to transform it. You know, no Dharma, no tools, no Sangha, no Buddha, no refuge, no community. So better that it ripens now, because if it's my negative karma, if I don't purify it, it will ripen anyway. You know, like tensions or conflicts with people. So we think, good that it ripens now, so now I can maybe transform it into something useful. Or to think about the benefits of suffering. Do you remember the 3 benefits of suffering? Oh, Leora Kennett is kind of wrinkling her nose. The 3 benefits of suffering, Leora? Okay, gets rid of our arrogance, because when we suffer, we're not arrogant, so that's a good thing. It purifies or it exhausts our negative karma. And if we are open enough, we generate empathy for others who are in the same situation. If we never suffer, we have no compassion, we have no empathy, we don't know how other people feel. Yeah, so like this. Why don't we have a little empathy for our situation? So that's another thing. We're very good at criticizing ourselves. So, you know, we could go, oh, I'm so stupid. Why did I do this again? Blah, 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 blah. So we react like an angry parent to a child who has these negative habits, you know, and a child who is not in control of his or her mind. There's no point getting angry at them. They're not in control of their mind. You would never get angry at the baby for when it screams, when it's kind of not happy. You would get angry at your partner when he starts to, you know, when he's not happy. Yeah. So like this. So when we understand that we have no control over this, then we have also more compassion and more empathy, which doesn't mean that we let ourselves do whatever we want to do. Having compassion for ourselves would mean we say no to ourselves and to our habits. That would mean having compassion. To see and to understand that we are under the control of our unhelpful or destructive emotions. So instead of hating ourselves for becoming angry or getting angry at the anger, to generate compassion. Yeah, that would be a good thing. And to see that we are, as the Dalai Lama says, you know, we are the master of ourselves. So by constantly seeing the negative things, by constantly criticizing, that creates very unhappy mind states. And very often it doesn't change the situation because we are powerless. We have no power over outside things, but we have power over the mind. So this would be the homework. Is that okay? Is it clear? To really observe, you know, because also it helps you awareness if I give you homework like this. You start to look inside instead of always being outside. We're so fascinated by the world outside and unfortunately not fascinated enough by seeing what's going on inside. This is why doing longer retreats is really good, because then you can't escape anymore. And this is what Hagar says, you know, then the whole shit is coming up, but at least then we can clean it out. You know, if we're constantly busy and happy and success and all this, you know, we might think that we have no shit inside because we never looked and we never gave it the opportunity to come up. So going into being alone, you know, we can see that also. Like I'm only nervous and thinking that, you know, I don't know what to say and all this and nervous and that when I'm alone. The moment I see you, I'm okay. So look at your negative states of mind. Is it when you are alone or is it when you are with others? So when we are alone and we have these negative states of mind, like insecurity, depression, blah, blah, all this, it's a clear sign we don't like ourselves enough. Yeah. That, you know, empathy, compassion, and connection only comes when we have other people. So being aware and seeing what's going on inside, this is where the healing then starts. And we can have control over our own mind if we train, but we need to train, and we need to train in a gentle way. And not so much to become a better person, Nahum, because also that is tricky, because then you can, if you fail, because we will fail, you know, then we can start hating ourselves again or judging ourselves. So, but to practice Buddhism, because, hey, I want to understand reality. I want to understand how the mind works. Yeah, this should be the motivation. When we hear about emptiness, I really want to have a direct perception of how reality really is. Then it's like realistic. This is what we can achieve. Yeah, and very, very important also to be happy the way we are right now. You know, to see that, hey, come on, I'm making an effort. It's good enough. Wednesday evenings, I'm going to listen to this nun. Yeah, like this already. You're so brave. You're so kind. You're so kind. After all these weeks, you still come every Wednesday evening. I can't believe it, you know. You're so kind. You make me so happy every time. Every time I switch off the computer, I'm really happy. So thank you very much for that.
I want to ask something because I'm not
sure. I wanted to stop in time, but if it's okay, go ahead.
I understand that you mean that to observe inside my habit of good, positive, and negative, like a black and white.
Not black and white, how you see things. You see a situation, and do you first see the negative side of it, or can you see the positive side of it?
Each situation to observe how I'm see it or how I present. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
More like situations, you know, like you drop a cup, it breaks. Do you first go like this and you know, oh, I lost a cup, or do you say, oh, 1 cup less to wash?
Not that. I'm just laughing.
Yeah. This is just an example. People get upset about breaking things, you know. So you could think, oh, more space in the cupboard. How wonderful. If I need to move house, less things to take away with me. Now I'm talking about the cup. It can also go for your telephone or for your computer. Yeah. So try to see, can I train the mind to see because there is something positive in every situation. Okay. Okay, so we end with some loving kindness and then some Tara mantras. Only 5 minutes maybe. Yes, Tom?
Is it okay that before the dedication and the Tara practice that I do my bit, because we started the class without me having to say about the Dharma friends and all that, so.
Yeah, do you really need, look, I know everybody, I think, who is on this thing here. Do they really need to hear it again? Okay, go ahead.
I would love just for the protocol.
For the protocol, okay, for the protocol.
I will just say, first of all, I will say this quick, just to say that, first of all, thank you very much, Anina, for doing this every week. We appreciate it a lot, and I think I'm speaking on behalf of everyone when I say that it really helps us go through this difficult times. And just I'll say that everything that happens here on behalf of the Dharma Friends Israel is made with without a price tag, but it has costs, and people are doing it voluntarily and willingly, but still there are some costs to this to our activity. And so if you feel that like this class or our activity is beneficial to you, then please find generosity and practice it by giving us dana. And I'll just post right now on the chat the links to PayPal of the Dharma Friends or Anila, and also other links to the Dharma Friends website and the YouTube channel, so that you can see other activities and catch up with everything that goes. And thank you again, Anila, and let's finish this talk.
Okay. Okay, so then we do this reflection a little bit to end on a good note also. So make yourselves comfortable. If you can sit with a straight back, letting go of thoughts as if you're not just clouds floating away, connecting with the body, coming to the present. And then to just again generate some loving kind of thoughts first for ourselves. This is not selfish. This is very necessary because we're very harsh with ourselves very, very often. So first we think, may I be safe? Just not how and what and when, just a thought, just an idea, just a wish. May I be safe? May I be protected from physical and mental harm? Because we don't deserve to suffer. We don't deserve to be harmed, no matter what negative karma we have created. May I be protected from physical and mental harm. May I be strong, healthy, peaceful and loving. Just allow these thoughts to become sensations, to sink in, so that you become really your best friend. You would wish that for your best friend. Sometimes we don't dare to wish it for ourselves. So sad, because we are good people. May I be able to live my life with joy and ease, even in difficult times. And then we open up and we think, there's so many other beings around us. I'm just a small particle in the universe. When we think like this is realistic, It takes away a lot of pressure that we have to be perfect and good and succeeding and all this. Yeah, I'm just a tiny particle amongst other tiny particles in this universe. Let's not be jealous of each other. Let's not hurt each other. So I think, all other sentient beings, may they be safe, me included. May we all be safe. May we all be protected from physical and mental harm, because it doesn't do any good to anybody. Nobody deserves to be harmed. Everybody should be happy, healthy, strong, peaceful, and loving. So that we can all live our lives with joy and ease, not in a silly way. Ease, open, spacious, and joyful, even if life is difficult. We are alive. How wonderful. And then, because Chado Rinpoche advised you to do Tara Mantra, so if you feel adverse to that and you'd rather not do it, that's fine. You can use another figure. You can say a prayer, something that it comes from your heart. Yeah, like this wish for all beings to be happy. And we can see, what can I do as an individual? Yeah. So we invoke a positive energy. And in this case, the energy of green Tara in space in front of us. She's the one sitting on the, it has a right scarf. I'm surrounded by Taras actually. So, but it's not a statue, it's a kind of made out of light, and you give her all the qualities, that a Buddha has, fully enlightened being, skillful means, love, compassion, wisdom, and she can inspire us, heal our wrong views and unhelpful emotions. So as we chant the mantra, you can see that from her heart, light rays are coming out, like supporting light rays, inspiring light rays, healing light rays, especially healing, our afflictions, our negative emotions. And you see that everybody, including ourselves, try it out. It's quite magic, actually. We lose our solidity, and we turn into a body of green light, and we become Tara. All the negativity is gone. We see ourselves as the result of this practice. Very light, very spacious, full of compassion, full of joy. Tara is full of joy. She's in this dancing posture. Even she sees all the misery in the world. She never loses her joy. So as these lights, rays of lights are touching us and all other sentient beings around us, you see how everybody transforms into Tara, because this is our potential. Om Tare Tu Re So. 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 And then, sometimes we can have a feeling when we chant mantras that this is totally useless, but to have some trust, a trust for Chado Rinpoche, who tells us to do that. I can see how they deal with difficult situations, for example, so they can serve as source of inspiration. they apply these methods, they do these things, and to feel that we have done something useful, even though maybe we don't feel the effect right now. But to think like, what else can I do? But this is my contribution, like studying this text, practicing it, training in it, and then now chanting the mantra. This is my contribution for this pandemic, you know, for the damage that it's doing, to be kept as small as possible. And for the ones who are sick, to get healthy very quickly, for the ones who have died, to get good rebirth, and everybody who is working in health institutions like doctors, nurses, psychologists, where they have the strength to deal with this, and especially for our government to be able to also to make the decisions out of wisdom and compassion, and not just out of self-concern. So by chanting the mantra, this is my contribution for this to happen. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Everybody, you know, Om Tare Tu Soha, you have beautiful chants on YouTube, much nicer than mine. So if you, because singing, especially if you're not well, singing is such a good thing because it opens the channels. On top of it, Itzek has joined us. Hi. Hello. Wow. I didn't see you before. So, so it's like, it's opening up energy channels. So it's always a good thing to sing if you don't feel so well. So you have beautiful chants on YouTube, so you can happily sing along with those. And to think, hey, okay, at least I'm doing something useful by chanting the mantras, because then as you chant mantras, you don't gossip, you don't lie, you're not going out to spend a lot of money, because you're not walking through the streets of Tel Aviv chanting Om Tare Tu Soha. You stay home, and so you feel that you've done something useful, you know, praying for others, wishing others well. This we can always do. To this we always have access. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Bye.
Very much.
Thank you.
Bye.